Sports Show. Time to talk about the Bend Motorsport. It is one of the best circuits in the world. I guarantee you that. Always a pleasure to get Mark Warren in with us. Mark, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me again.
Always look forward to it, mate. Now, plenty to talk about. March Madness, I want to call it. Now, in the States, they have the college basketball, mate, where March Madness is the finals and the playoff. They all get geared up for it, start of the season, all that kind of stuff. Kind of looks like that at the Bend at the moment. I had a look at your calendar this morning.
Busy.
Yeah. Have you got an afternoon off anywhere in the next month?
No, we don't. And I've got to say, after the 2 years that we've had, and for a lot of people, where there's not much going on, this has been the most sensational March, and also April's looking the same. We literally do not have a single day on the track available. We've got so much going on with people coming in and hiring the track and using it, to do their own thing. But the number of events, fantastic. So, and the calendar for the next few months looks great.
So the events don't just happen out of nowhere. I mean, someone must have planned all this. You said that the last couple of years have been very tough, which they have been on everybody. Then all of a sudden, and I looked at the calendar too, and I go, whoa, hang on a minute. There's some work done here to put all this together. It's not just happened overnight.
Well, I also think there's a pent-up demand. I mean, people are looking for things to do and looking for places to go. And so when it comes to motorsport, when people have been having their cars locked up in sheds or they've been working on them, and they're keen to bring them out. So there's plenty of people with cars that want to get out there and do something. Yeah. And karts, and we talked about karts as well.
Now, just for the listeners, we're just talking about that before we came on here, the super karts that are coming out.
Yes.
I saw that some of the speeds, 245 kilometres an hour, and you were saying faster than some of the cars.
And they are that close to the ground. You need real courage to drive a superkart, and it actually doesn't come under Karting Australia because they are too fast for Karting Australia. They actually fall under Motorsport Australia because they're classed as a four-wheel racing, and literally they are faster around the track than, even supercars around the international circuit because they are just got so much grip.
Are they maniacs, mate?
Do you really have to ask that question? I think you know the answer to that. The 245 k's that close to the ground.
That is on the ground doing 245. It sounds something my wife would do, or something. It's just. That is phenomenal, and it must be great to watch these guys do this.
What's great is, same with Aussie racing cars, similar small sort of size, they draft down the main straight, and so they follow nose to tail, and then when they get into the first turn, they just spread out like a bunch of wasps and just to try and get around the corner. And so it makes for really interesting racing when you're seeing them flying down the circuit, all drafting each other.
All right, let's stay on the fast cars, mate, and talk about what's on this month, the drags.
Yes, well, the big announcement that we had just recently is we're building the Bend Dragway, and it's been a long time coming. It's a $30 million investment, so it's not trivial. And we want this, like everything we do at the Bend, we want it to be world class, and we expect to have some top level Group 1 drag events there and burnout competitions and all sorts of things. So I've got to say that we're the home state for the peak body of drag racing, ANDRA, the Australian National Drag Racing Association, yet we don't have a full quarter-mile track in operation here. The old AIR still exists, but it's obviously it's not as operational as it once was, and it's not to the level that we're building this dragway. And so, first event probably in the new year. So this year we'll be building it, but yeah, plenty going on.
The drags, I went to the drags a few times at AIR. Just absolutely unbelievable thing. But it sort of seemed to have died. Nothing happened after a while with drags. Was it because of the state of the track, or was there a reason why it just died? Because we stopped going. It wasn't happening.
I think one of the challenges with a lot of dragways in a lot of countries is there's residential build-up around circuits and so on. It makes it difficult in terms of noise regulations and the like. Now, we don't have that out at Bend because we've built in an area specifically with that in mind to know that we can do motorsport in peace and quiet. And look, I think that there's, again, a pent-up demand for that. I mean, the number of people that came out with their drag cars for our announcement of the construction, it's got to be the number one inquiry we get on our website, and as to, first of all, it was, when are you building it? When are you building it? Now it's, when are you finishing it? When are you finishing it? So it is literally, there's going to be a lot of people keen to get out there.
Event. The drags are just an amazing event and noisy. I mean, I took my lad out there when he was only a very little fella, and boy, it frightened the living daylights out of him when they took off. I think they were called not drags, jet cars or no.
Well,
There was
there's
a
top
very-
top fuelers.
Yeah, one
The
of
top
the real
fuelers,
loud ones.
they're the pinnacle. They're like the supercars of
That's
drag
it,
racing,
yeah,
and
that's
so
it, yeah.
the top fuelers, those guys, they invest $60,000 rebuilding their engine for just about every pass that they do, and so the amount of money that goes into it, but the loveliest guys, the most down to earth, very family friendly sport. Yeah, it has all these perceptions, but there's always that sort of like 1 or 2% element. But I've got to say, for the most part, one of the best events you can go to, and the noise, the spectacle, and seeing these cars take off like rockets down the strip.
It's unbelievable.
Just another story out at Tail and Bear, mate. The magic out there. Let's talk about cars that are nearly as noisy, mate. Let's talk about the muscle cars.
Muscle cars. So we've got the Variety Muscle Car Run coming out to us next week, which will be fantastic. We've also got a number of events coming up. So we've got the Australian Motor Racing Series coming to us, and that's going to have the Trans Am cars, the V8 Kumo Series as well. So we've got a number of sort of significant events for anyone that loves big V8s and big noise.
Hey, mate, explain to me the roll racing, where they roll for the first 40, up to about 40 Ks, and then bang, they're off for the 250 metre run.
So roll racing came about because people didn't necessarily want to build a drag car that was going to take all the stresses of a standing start. Roll racing is fantastic for street cars, particularly and even people that have high performance road cars, where, just as you described, they cycle around to do the cool down laps to then line up again, and then there's two cars side by side. They go through a set of cones, 40 k's per hour, the lights go green, and they hit the hammer, and it's like a drag race but a rolling start. And so I think that because there hasn't been a lot of drag racing, roll racing, literally it sells out every time we put it on. It happens about every 3 weeks at the Bend. I think the next one is coming up on about the 9th of April, and then again on the 30th of April. So anyone that hasn't seen roll racing should actually get out there and see it, and it's a precursor to then seeing the street drags.
I want to talk about a little bit. We'll come back to cars to finish up, of course. But then there's the V8. We don't want to get into the politics of that, so we'll leave that alone. But I want to put motorbikes. So a couple of weeks ago, I caught up with Mick Doohan. It was a fluke. We were in the right place at the right time. And Mick spent a lot of time, talks with fondness about the Bend and how he was around the track and stuff. And obviously, 5-time world champion. Motorbikes on the track, mate. When will we see them again?
So we've got the Australian Superbike Championship coming back later in the year. So that's in the back half of the year, probably November, December at this stage. But with Mick Doohan, he was part of the original design process for the circuit. So he was one of the people we consulted with, and at the time he was also the president for Karting Australia. So he helped us out looking at the karting circuit, because we wanted that to be a full world-class karting circuit as well. So yeah, Mick, it was great to have him part of that process, and we'd welcome him back any day of the week.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get back on the bike, mate. He didn't seem all that keen to have a run around. But while we're talking about bikes, there's an event on this weekend, the Revolve, is it? The Revolve?
Yes.
So most people see the Bend as the racing track, nothing but cars, and we've touched about, I think most people would be surprised that go-karts get on there, the karting. But this is for bikes.
So this weekend we have the Revolve 24 event, and it's a 24-hour endurance cycling event. And whilst there's mostly teams that are involved in this, they literally cycle for 24 hours straight, but there are actually some soloists. In fact, there's about 20-odd soloists, and where they ride the full 24 hours themselves. And so just an amazing event for anyone that's into cycling. Enter a team or get along to it. We've also got the Pedal Prix in May. And so you talk about pedal, human-powered vehicles. Well, Pedal Prix is always a favourite with families as well in schools.
Mate, is there a favourite for you? Because it's a pretty broad brush that the Bend gets across just about everything.
Do you have a favourite child? I mean, it's kind of a bit that way.
Depends what they're doing. But is it hard for you, because you're in that position where everything is so good to try? I'll tell you what it is for me. Then when I go to the Bend, the favourite for me is the museum.
Right.
I know they're standing still, but just to walk around, and it's constantly changing. And I highly recommend, if you haven't been out there, you need to go and have a look at it. It is a mind-blowing experience. And I wasn't into cars a couple of years ago, went out for a whole range of different reasons and fell in love with it. And I could go out once a month and go, wow, we have a look at these cars.
And it's continually cycling, as you described. I mean, right now we've got a Ferrari 288 GTO, which is an incredibly rare car that's sitting out there, a McLaren P1, and we're just... It's constantly changing, so you can come back every couple of weeks and see something completely different.
For you that's out there every weekend and you see something completely different, I'll change tact on you. Is there a car that you go, that's the one for me. If you could afford it, run it, service it, and do all the other stuff, is there one that's come through there where you've gone, yeah, that's the one?
It's so again, it's trying to choose a favourite. For me, what I have learned a lot about being part of a racetrack is that there's certain cars that will hold up to the track punishment. So if you're going there regularly to do track activity, then you really need to have a track-based car. If you go do it for, all day constantly, no problem with bringing your road car out, but you wouldn't necessarily hammer that all day. So
Yes.
we've got other events to cater for that. So yeah, look, I'd say that there's a large number of exotics that come, and they are great for spinning around for maybe half a day. But Porsche, interestingly,
Yes.
if anyone's going to want a reliable track day car, you can't go past Porsche. They really do make a big difference. We've actually got the Porsche Nationals coming to us in Easter as well.
Wow.
So if
Okay.
anyone who's got Porsche in their DNA,
Let
and
me
you
write
love
that
Porsches,
down, mate, because my partner definitely
Easter.
has Porsche Easter. So we'll be out there every day. It's been great. Thanks for that, Mark. Come again.
How did you get
problem at all.
time, mate? How did you get time to come in here? I mean, I know we like to have you on and whatever, but this sounds like you're a busy man, mate. Because no days off in March. This except
Pretty much,
today,
yeah.
this afternoon.
Well, no, I get the occasional time. We do have others working at the bend. It's not just me pushing all the buttons, but no, we've got a good
You
team.
would need to be there, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
you know,
they're there for a lot of the events, yeah.
And you've been there now half a dozen years, and
It's almost 6 years now. So right from the inception, from the planning and working out what we're going to build and how we're going to deliver events.
it's amazing. It's an amazing place, mate. You should be congratulated because everyone I speak to, including the boy here, they all say everyone says the same thing. Magnificent. It's a magnificent place. So well done.
I've certainly got to give credit to the Sheehan family and Sam Sheehan, who's had this vision and now delivering on all of his promises as he always does. He's made a big commitment, as has the family, and I think I tip my hat to them.
Yeah, no doubt. Sam is an absolute ripper, mate, and he races the Porsches too, I don't mind telling you. He's had a couple of big prangs, but he's back on the track. You need to get out there and support Sam. Hey, Mark, always great to catch up with you, mate.
No, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Something exciting happening out at the bend. You need to get out there. If you haven't been, it will be the most enjoyable day or evening that you can have. Stay with us. Back with more.